All right. So I think when you get to 3 and it is time, you get started. Hopefully, we'll have a few more people join us. But if you're all okay with it, let's get rolling. Let's make some progress.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to take control or share my screen. And, if so, I haven't formally introduced myself or met you before, Vicki, Tamara, and Rachel. There is in the chat a link to the mural board we're going to be working off of that you'll want to connect to. And this will be very much a participatory um, event. And so we'll let everybody get connected, and then Denise is going to do the magical bring everybody to her so we can all find get together on the board in the same place.
It's my cue to get more coffee. Be right back.
Okay. So do we have everybody in? I see Vicki, John, Denise. I see visiting artisan, which not sure if that's Paul or somebody else.
Well, Paul stepped away and it's moving, so it's not him.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, if everybody just let me know when, so I see Tamara also, we're good.
Oh, and Vicki just clicked on your LinkedIn. That's good.
Yeah, I do love making new friends, and I love sharing ideas and learning from people as well. So love to connect if we can. All right, so I'm going to assume everybody's in. If not, raise your hand. But we can get started. And if you weren't able to join us last time, up above are all the slides we worked off of last time. I'll quickly drag my screen there so you can see them, and then bring us back and talk a little bit about how this all started with, I just said I like to make friends. I like to share ideas. And Denise had shared a question on the HRC board. And I got myself into a good kind of trouble because the question that was shared was, to what extent do you believe challenges in healthcare are connected with broader societal issues? And I'll share that my response on the left, I said, it's kind of 50-50 for me. But very first thing I noticed was other people had a much different experience. And so it made me curious to understand what was behind that. What were other people seeing that maybe I wasn't? And what was the opportunity to learn from that? When I shared that with Denise, she said, "Hey, Brent, maybe that's a good opportunity to share your expertise in design thinking, and I also work in collaborative problem solving. Just over the course of doing what I do in my career, I had the opportunity to bring a number of different systematic approaches together and kind of marry them together in my own custom way." So that's what we're going to go through today, is how can we use some tools from design thinking, from root cause analysis, from wicked problem solving, etc., to look at the challenges or the space on societal issues simultaneously with healthcare challenges. And hopefully when we get to the end of this in session 3, what we're going to do is we're going to find where are the most powerful connections between them. And when we find what we believe to be the most powerful connections, those are also the greatest opportunities for us to make an impact in what we do. Now, I hope along the way, the problems and the connections that we make work directly for work that you're already working on. But also, I simultaneously want to just equip you with more tools for your toolbox to help you develop ways of ideating and getting creative solutions for your own problems that you are working. And when you get to that point, if you want some help and some thought partners, I'd always be happy to join you in some thought partnering on how we could attack those challenges that you are facing. I want to share one last thing. Ideation, collaborative ideation, is best done with data. Now, we have a variety of perspectives here today, and we didn't all come prepared with data. Maybe you have some. We're going to use proxy as data, that is past experiences, gut instincts, knowledge that we do have, and leverage that in place of where we would like to have data from either quantitatively measured or qualitatively evaluated scenarios. So, Dawn, you want to talk? We're going to jump into questions. We're going to create the question, the central core question that we're going to attack together. But before we do that, Dawn has some great guidelines for asking questions. I think I'd love to share that. So I'm going to drop sharing and turn it over to you, Dawn.
Dawn, you're muted.
Sorry about that. All right. It's good to know a little bit about crafting questions when you're doing processes like this. So I've got an hour-long talk that I'm going to do in about 5-6 minutes. So I'm going to hit the highlights for you and just start you thinking about how might you craft good questions. So there's a few examples about questions that made a difference in the world. And so I thought I'd start with those just as a matter of demonstration. So here's one question, and tell me what you believe came of this question. What might DNA look like in 3D form? That was the question that a few people asked, was Watson, Crick, and Franklin. And they came up with the double helix as being the form of DNA. What about where can I get a good hamburger on the road? Anybody know what came of that?
McDonald's?
Exactly. Ray Kroc asked that question and came up with McDonald's, and look what that got us and him. So, and then the last question is, what is the most ethical action we can take? I may need to give you some clues there. This happened in 1982. The company that asked the question was Johnson & Johnson. There was an incident that occurred in Chicago, resulted in 7 deaths. It was a poisoning of potassium cyanide in Tylenol capsules.
Right.
And Johnson & Johnson asked the question, what is the most ethical action we can take? And they decided it was to take Tylenol off the shelves. It cost them $100 million back in 1982. They bounced back fairly well, although they're in the news again today, aren't they? So those are some questions that really made a difference, right? Because people asked them, lots of things happened. So when we ask the question, what makes a powerful question, I want you to think about the anatomy of a powerful question. We're going to talk about construction, scope, assumptions, and purpose at a high level. So when you think about what word starts questions, you look at this list and you might notice that when you ask which or yes, no questions, it's not as powerful as at the top. Those questions that start with why are much more powerful. I'm going to give you some examples with questions about healthcare reform. For example, which party has the answer to healthcare reform? While that could result in a debate, the answer is finite. Who needs to be part of the discussion? When should it happen? And where should it take place? These have more possible answers, but not terribly stimulating. What are the possibilities of a reformed healthcare system? That is a more interesting question. How can we be sustainable, affordable, and outstanding? Requires many perspectives, creativity, and critical thinking. And what do you think about this question? Why do we continue to not fix healthcare? What you might notice about questions like this that start with why is that they turn up the heat. Why, that word has an edge to it. And if you want to turn up the heat, why is a good place to start your question. But if you're trying to avoid heat, you want to stay away from why. So you think about scope of questions. You need to consider the participants, their expertise, and what they can impact when formulating the question. So you might not want to be asking, how can we affect the international economy when facilitating discussions of physician leaders? But on the other hand, if you have some influential Chinese and US leaders and they're in the room, you probably would not ask them how to fix workflow in a rheumatology clinic, right? So these are coarse examples, but I think they make the point. You got to consider the scope of the question and the participant's domain of effectiveness and knowledge. The next thing to think about is assumptions. And I know you all have seen these. We're asked to evaluate our colleagues. Ever run across an evaluation based on what you as an employee is supposed to aspire to? So you're supposed to evaluate Dr. Johnson, and the evaluation reads, Dr. Johnson lives and breathes the mission of Minneapolis Quality Healthcare System. This assumes that you, the evaluator, knows what the mission is, right? So the assumptions in a question often reveal the values of the writer of the question. And this in itself can generate conversation. So we got to think about what the assumptions are behind the questions. I'm going to give you an example of a couple examples of more questions and their assumptions. So what the difference between what did we do wrong and who is responsible? That's the shame blame, right? Versus what can we learn from what has happened and what possibilities do we now see? Very different set of assumptions in those questions, and they get very different results. The other thing to be attentive to is the purpose of your questions. It's always important to have a purpose for your questions, for your meetings, for your gatherings, for your conversations. So when we're diverging, like Brent talked about, we may want to generate curiosity. So we might ask the question, oh, I see I made a mistake there. We might ask the question, what is possible if we start from scratch, thinking about how to create healthy communities? So you can see where that really generates a lot of curiosity. Whereas if you were converging and you wanted to step into convergence, you might ask, what time is it? That kind of urges us to ask the question, what is it time to do now? What time is it? That can be kind of an edgy question as well. So think about the purpose with your questions as well. So I'm going to ask, rather than do you have any questions, I'm going to ask, what questions do you have? And I'll stop sharing. We're hitting the highlights there.
Good. Great job. I'm going to ask you to do something that we've done in our questions. How would you proportion your time, Dawn, if across everything that we're doing? What guidance do you have for us?
So
how would you focus on?
Right. Yeah. So Einstein said, if you had 1 minute to solve a problem, you should spend 1 hour to solve a problem. You should spend 59 minutes crafting your question. And then in the last minute, you'll get to the solution. Thanks for asking that, Brent.
Yeah. And I just want to reemphasize, powerful questions deliver powerful results. I'm going to add one other slight extension to what Dawn shared. And remember to use words like might when you want to open up questioning. Want to let people feel comfortable sharing things or sharing ideas and concepts that maybe it's a little risky. When you use definite words like is and are, those tend to drive people to a point rather than questions like might or could. So just remember that little piece. And I think we're ready to take on our next step. And that will be deciding in the space between healthcare challenges and societal issues, what questions should we frame? And for any of those who have joined just recently, there's a link in the chat, and Denise can use the bring everybody to me function. But what I'd like everybody to do for right now is, if you're on the what question are we answering, take some time to brainstorm. We'll open this up for 2 or 3 minutes, and like everybody to just grab a sticky note like you saw me just do and drag it to the side. Write a single question on each sticky note. You may always go back and get more using some of the guidelines that Dawn shared.
I had trouble with this last time. I'm not sure. I'm on the Miro site, but I don't see my name with the cursor like I do everybody else's.
Yeah, you'll just see your cursor.
Oh, okay. Everybody else, but
that's right.
Do see me.
You're probably
Moving
in as
around.
one of the visitors. Are you
I
moving right
see your
now?
name.
Yeah, I'm moving back and forth to the top of the screen. Is that
Yep, we see you.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And if anybody has challenges with this, go ahead and put your information in the chat and I'll be happy to create a post-it for you. Don't let the technology get in your way.
And also just as you're working, I see I had to expand one that I wrote a lot. Don't think that you have to stay just on this page. You can wander down off of it with your sticky notes. And okay, let's just give another minute and then we're going to ask people to talk about what they've written down. Okay. We're ready to talk about them a little bit. All right. So let's start with blue one on the left here. Like the originator to come offline, talk a little bit about what you're thinking. Just real quickly, clarify anything. We tend to use shorthand as we're writing on sticky notes. Just share just a little bit about this.
I think when I was saying it, or when I was writing it, I thought what sometimes getting down to the question of who are we and what are we doing here type of question to kind of go back to the basics when we're thinking about answering more complex questions. Who are we and what are we doing here in our society right now in the realm of healthcare?
Okay, thank you. All right, Dawn, I see you've highlighted some in pink. Why don't you walk us through yours? We'll start here. And
Sure. So the first one is what aspects of our culture impacts our health. And I just went for a little bit more specific than all societal issues and said, what about our culture in that question to impact health? And then I said, more generally, what societal issues impact health access? So in that one, I was general for the first half of the question, more specific to health access. I'm just playing around with questions. And then, of course, how does poverty affect health? One of our events a few months ago was Stephen Bezruchka talking about how poverty affects health. And he feels like that's one of the biggest players. And then what could we change about our society to improve the health of all people? There, I thought about, we might as well look at what we can change. Because I mean, maybe you don't want to restrict your thinking too much about that, but might as well think about what aspects of the society we could change that would impact health positively.
I love that bold question, and yeah. So thank you for sharing that. Let's go with this one up here. I'm not sure we can find out who shared it. It's a visitor, so.
How can we start to move communities to treat healthcare as a utility?
Okay. Help me understand, maybe this is a medical interpretation, but what do you mean by as a utility?
Communities purchase water, fire, police, public schools, but they don't buy their own local healthcare.
Yeah. Okay, good. Again, bold thought. I love it. I love it. Let's talk about this one. Ms. Cassia? Oh, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, there's a background noise here where I am, and I muted myself. So I think that when I say healthcare plans, I also didn't mean insurance plans. I actually meant strategic plans that companies make, pharma, medical device, healthcare systems. And I'm thinking that the market is changing so fast, and especially technologies that are developing extremely fast. And I don't necessarily see healthcare moving fast and thoughtfully. It's not just the point of moving fast, but moving more thoughtfully about which technologies we actually implement and why. Because some of them can be extremely helpful for patients or the efficiency of the healthcare system, but somehow the risk aversion in our healthcare systems is also very high, and that's somehow blocking people from adopting things that would help them. Also, lack of knowledge, basically, about how they can help them blocks them as well. So my question is, how do we educate them a little better about these new technologies? How do we make sure that they actually factor in some learning and knowledge about these new technologies into their thinking process?
Awesome question. And I share your pain from a health plan, health insurance perspective, especially with the risk-averse nature.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about how do we rebuild the trust in medical sciences? Oh, you stay right on, Cassia. Do you want to speak more about that? Or maybe that's self-explanatory.
Was that Cassia's question? I don't think she heard you, Brent.
Okay.
Oh yeah, that was I just didn't expect my second question being brought up so quickly. And I was reading some comments in the chat. I also see a big societal problem. It's not only a US problem, but it's predominantly US problem, which is the very, very deep erosion of the people's trust in medical sciences. Like, for example, the medical advices that we are taking from people on social media and recently even in the government who really do not have medical backgrounds and maybe are not able to process properly medical sciences. And yet the trust in experts has eroded. So I have a couple of ideas of what we could do about it, but how do we rebuild this trust? I think it's important, especially in the era where people start making a lot of medical decisions by themselves. There's consumerization in medicine as well. So people will take more dietary supplements, they will wear more wearables, they will think they manage their health by doing that. So how do we make sure that they have the right information and that this information is understood properly?
Okay, great question. And again, you and I are two peas in a pod, because I have noticed and often ask questions about the same topic. So
yeah.
Okay, what about the reason for healthcare? Let's see. So this one is Vicky. You want to talk about it a little bit?
Oh, that's
And it
good.
is pretty self-explanatory, but
I didn't remember
one
if
would
that
be
was one I wrote, but I think that that's like this baseline understanding. What is healthcare and why do we have it? Because I'm thinking back to one of the presentations that we had before, which was that the pre-birth and post-birth, there's a chunk of time that is actually more important than anything that we're doing in the country after that with regard to longevity. And so I think it's the what really is healthcare all about? Um, and why are we it's also kind of this idea of we've medicalized life.
Mhm.
And I'm like fascinated by that whole thought of what is normal and natural and what really needs to happen in a healthcare and what happens between healthcare visits is really us providing care for our health. So I'm having all sorts of random thoughts that aren't really cohesive.
and it's still beautiful. So thank you.
Sure.
Let's see. So looks like multiple people, and this is kind of a related question or similar, close cousin. Vicki, I think you wrote this one down.
Yeah. Who gets to define what health is? And yeah, that's just it. Who gets to define what health is, and have we all really come up with a consensus on what health is that everybody understands in every stratification within our society?
Excellent question. Okay, let's move around the board. Vicki,
Yeah,
keep right on going.
yeah, that's my other one and this one goes with the one that's like up above, which is how did historically we end up in this situation where healthcare is so tied to business and profits? And I wonder if there's not a way that we can't like undo that and extract those things and make them separate. I think we're so far into this that it would be next to impossible, but it's like, how did we get here? And I know that there's an answer to that. I just don't know it. And can we somehow either reconcile this profit and care thing in a way that makes sense or take the two things just completely apart so that people who are actually trying to provide care can do it without having to think about the providers having to think about money first and the patients having to think about money first.
Mm-hmm.
So there, I think we're done with all of mine.
Okay, great job. Okay, let's try this big purple one here. Let's see, I think listed as a visitor. Somebody remember who said that?
Not me.
Hi, that's me.
Okay. Yeah, talk about it a little bit. Clarify it for us.
Um, so I was thinking about like some of our societal values about health and how that might differ from other cultures and countries. I was also reflecting back to the meeting we had about the like US healthcare and how we're ranked last among sort of the um, more developed countries in our life expectancy. So I'm wondering, like, is that only a systems problem, or is there a values problem? And perhaps the values are driving systems and vice versa. But what are our values about health, but maybe about wellness and illness, which are separate things that could exist together?
Those are that. Thank you. Those are great and deeply thought out questions that you've asked, and thank you. Um, let's see. So how can we reconcile profit and care? Let's see. Oh,
That was
Vicki,
me again.
Vicki,
Yeah,
I think you
yeah,
right.
and I already kind of talked about that one. It goes with the idea of how did we get here, and they're two so tied closely together.
Okay. So these two yellow ones that are a little bigger are ones that I contributed. How might we better understand the relationship between healthcare challenges and societal issues? Which I think gets at many of the topics other people have talked about, but probably not in as precise a way. So I actually am going to say I like questions you guys have come up with better than the ones that I added. And then, close cousin to it, even though I can't spell when I'm trying to type fast. How could healthcare challenges and societal issues be connected differently than they are today? In just looking at what might a better future be is what I'm trying to get at there. So I'm going to zoom back a little bit and we're going to do a vote. We'll give everybody 3 votes. You can put your votes on all 3 of them on one sticky note, or you can distribute them if you want. And we're going to let votes determine the challenge or the question that we go after today. And before we do that quickly, I'm going to say, just so you know, I kind of planned out the seminar to walk them through it and pre-formatted slides for dealing with, a kind of a tight challenge between societal issues and healthcare challenges, but we can flex. So let's try a vote. I'm going to do it here live in front of all of you. Uh-oh. So Denise, I have to say, yesterday I could get on and execute a vote. Today it's not letting me. So we don't let technology get in the way of what we're trying to do. So let's just have, let's see, if I do that, let me, did that help? Voting. No, still can't do a vote. So
Either.
I'm gonna let someone with a a big voice start the conversation. Which one is most interesting to you? And let's just other than using electronic means, let's pick a question out here that we can all rally around.
Looks like I can launch the votes.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Denise. I'll
So
let you.
3 votes.
Yeah, let's do 3 votes.
Okay, I'm going to hit launch and let's see what happens.
Okay, so everybody should have an opportunity to join the voting session, and you've got 2 minutes to cast your 3 votes.
How are we doing that? Just by tapping on them?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
It only let me do 1 vote.
And I don't know that I'm voting. I'm tapping on them.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
quite
not
working.
all of the post-its are letting me. So let's end for all.
Same here. Same here. It says I have 3 votes left, but I couldn't vote.
Yep. So
Yep.
I ended it. Let's go ahead and go old school, Brent. We should have tested this before.
Yeah, I apologize for that. I thought
Okay,
I had tested it,
we just put like 3 emoticons around these different questions, right?
Yeah. Let me just real quick. I'm going to put some stars on the page, and everybody can grab the stars. Here, I'm going to color it in real quick, just so we can see them. Let's use a color that'll show up, blue. Okay.
Oh, there they are.
Yeah, should be a bunch of them coming out now.
I see 3 of them.
Grab your star while you can.
Yeah, that's right. Control D.
I'm helping you, Brent. Okay, there, lots of stars.
Okay, so we'll just, everybody on your honor, grab a star and drag it to the one you want to vote for.
Or, yeah, 3 stars, right?
Yep.
Yeah, 3 stars.
And interestingly, now I could vote. So I actually voted.
Okay, yes, good.
Oops. There, finally.
If anybody's having troubles, just let me know. I can move stars for you.
Could you put 3 stars on how to drive rebuild the trust, or 2 more stars on that one? My mouse isn't working.
Which one's the trust? Help me out there.
It's got a lot of stars and a big 3 by it.
I got it.
Thank you.
Oh,
there you go.
Boy, I feel like I'm network television reporters at a national election, and I'm going to call a vote early before everybody's finished voting.
The good thing we're all honest, because I could vote 6 or 8 times.
Voting fraud.
So it really feels like most votes are going to be, how can we rebuild trust in medical sciences?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So let's grab that one. And that is going to be our focus question. We'll make it super big. And now we'll move on to our next slide. And as we discussed earlier, I will have to flex a little bit. Please be patient with me, but let's deal with it. So as we move into an opportunity to do some brainstorming around this central question that we want to get to, we're going to first start out by opening up our minds to possibilities of how we got here around this question. As we do divergent thinking, a couple of rules of thumb, we'll call it. We want, and this is more true when you're trying to ideate, if this is something that, maybe we have some history on and we understand some reasons, you wouldn't do this much, but we really want to focus on quantity over quality. Don't let quality or that feeling that gets all of us that, it's not a good enough idea or something like that ever stop us from sharing, because ideas that we generate prompt other ideas from other people, even if we would call them not our best. Okay. Our most apparent ideas, the ones that are right on the surface, those will come out first. And so I absolutely want to push to get our creative ideas, especially if we're ideating. Those will come out last. Those are the most difficult to get to. And then I want to encourage you to allow yourself to be uncomfortable in this. Like kind of close cousin to the second point, our best and most creative ideas will come when we're outside of our comfort zone. Okay. And then leverage other people's ideas to inspire us. So I share underneath here, there are a variety, and this isn't even all of them, ideas to help prompt us and get us into that creative space. I imagine that all of us have used brainstorming in the past, and we're going to do a very simple, straightforward brainstorming as one of our exercises. But take some time if you have an opportunity or a need to generate creative ideation, and look at some of these other techniques. Probably my most successful I've ever had, it just came out of the blue, is using forced stimulation. That was where you take a common object or a common service that is easily described, and you ask the audience for a few attributes of that object, and then you force those attributes into your problem. So I used a paper clip and forced it into my problem in automotive window systems in manufacturing, and ended up with 12 patents out of it collectively across the ideation session. So can be really powerful if we use those prompts that we don't see to help our brains think from a different perspective. Okay, so brainstorming, because I know you all know how to do it, we'll just go on this. I was going to ask the question of what healthcare challenges exist to prompt our brainstorming, but instead let's insert our new question, and we're going to refine it a little bit so that we don't assume that we can get right to the answer. Instead, let's use a technique. This would be close to what I would call, sorry, I'm dragging people all over. Let's see. I'm not sure why it won't let me scroll back up, but I am getting there. There we go. Let's zoom in. So using Cassie's question, we're gonna use a technique here similar to reverse brainstorming, and where reverse brainstorming in its pure sense would be, how do we create the worst example of this? And then when we've defined how we can create the worst example, then we would do the opposite. In this case, we're going to ask a question is, historically, what did medical sciences do that broke down trust? And I don't want to personalize this on medical sciences, but look back historically, what were those things that might have caused a breakdown in trust? And we want to brainstorm on that. So let me quick type that up. If you want to grab tab sticky notes and start brainstorming on it while I retype the question, go ahead, and we'll just spend 5 minutes on this.
I lost my thing.
Let's see. Okay. Okay. How are we coming? I'm seeing a lot of notes coming up. Yeah, I feel like the ideas aren't completely gone yet. Okay, let's just limit it to maybe a minute yet. Okay. So I'm going to start by apologizing for the way that I directed the question, because as I look at it and started to put a little thought of, how do we take the next step as we're flexing a little bit, I realized that I should have been a little more precise with the question just based on my own answers. You tell me if you had the same experience. When I put the question, or I wrote it down as what circumstances might have contributed to the breakdown in trust in medical science, I should have been more precise, because I know on the next step I want to get to what's contributed for society. In responses that I put down, I have a mixture of things that have happened in society and things that were directly maybe created, or circumstances that were created by healthcare. I don't know, did any of you in the brainstorming work that you did you do something similar?
Yes, I did actually, because you're right. I understood the question as things that we did, with we not being maybe precise. So we healthcare professionals, we the society, we the politicians, right? We can mean many things.
Yeah.
I think
Very
that's
good.
a distinction, Brent, between healthcare and society.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed the first two words of what you said, Paul. If you want to...
I think it's an artificial distinction to distinguish between healthcare and society.
Okay. Expand on that a little bit. Why do you feel that way?
Because it's part of society. In fact, it's a fifth of our economy, and I don't think you can tease them apart.
Okay. Now I'm going to go back to Kasia. You asked the original question. How do you feel about that? If we took Paul's perspective, do you think it's possible to get to the question, the core of the question, as you asked it or as you intended it?
I think we can. It's just that we open up the brainstorming session, which gives us a lot of ideas and a lot of points of view. We can start, if we want to move forward, we probably should have thought about how to group them now, because I do agree with Paul that dividing society and healthcare is a little artificial, because healthcare is part of the society. And where do you draw the line, right? So I am more comfortable, for example, in taking this input and maybe grouping it into, I don't know, political reasons, societal reasons, demographic reasons, technology reasons, like the pestle type of analysis. And this way we can see what ideas we have in each group.
Okay.
Because somehow moving forward requires us to group these points of view.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and move on to the next step. Before we do, just to color it in, not that my answers are any better or any different. I have thought about this question over time. And, so I'll say for myself personally, religion is a big part of my life. And so when I see trust breaking down with medical science that we've currently, experienced more recently, I also started to ask the question, it's kind of a deja vu moment for me. We've seen trust breakdown in other institutions over decades, is different types of thought, postmodernism, etc. Started to say everybody has their own truth. And I think when we opened up that what is true, we started to see a number of institutions, or trust in a number of institutions, break down, from religion, whatever religion you are, to government structures, to educational structures, to healthcare structures, and kudos to the healthcare structures. Trust in that structure has lasted the longest. So that's one thing I see. But also more recently, as I look across generational studies, younger generations that are becoming more prominent now have a general distrust in every institution. If you go back to that World War II generation, all you had to do is say you were a police officer and you got instant respect and instant trust.
Power in the modern world isn't just measured in missiles.
Not in my part of the world, by the way. I am from East Europe, not in my part of the world. In our part of the world, if a police knocked at your door, you're running out through the back door.
Okay, good perspective. Thank you. So I looked at a couple of other things, myself that I've asked questions about. We have also, if we look to trust the health, and I'm not blaming anyone, please don't feel that way. But I do look at some major issues that we've had of antibiotic resistance that have come out of over prescribing of antibiotics and opioid crisis that would cause people to say, all right, we can't without questioning just accept all the answers that we've been given. Okay. If everybody's okay in this, please, I didn't say it earlier. If you have questions, concerns, comments, just shout them out at any point. But if there aren't any, let's go into a different type of brainstorming. And I think because of what we did on the first page, we'll be able to do the same type of thing on the second page. We'll use the same question. I've done something that's a little bit dangerous for brainstorming here, but we've got a good group. When you're brainstorming and doing divergent thinking, you don't want to categorize too early because it can stifle creativity or the expanse of doing divergent thinking. But I do want to help people to think in categories and maybe go a little bit deeper. So I've put down 6 different categories of things that might have contributed to the way that trust in the healthcare system or trust in medical science might have some interplay. And so I'd like us to spend some time. We're going to spend a shorter period of time in any one category, but we're also going to, because I want to simultaneously teach some new techniques, I'm going to ask you to start in one category for 2 or 3 minutes. You may copy your sticky note from above and bring it down if it fits here. Spend 2 or 3 minutes in one category, and then I'm going to ask you to go into another category that intentionally makes you uncomfortable. Maybe you don't have as much exposure there or experience, and read through the comments that are previously there and build on those. Because I talked earlier about how other people's prompts can help us to get out of our own biases and mental models. So does that make sense? I have this terrible habit of getting to a point where I forget to use verbs and
so my question is, are we trying to develop new points here, or are we just dragging the ones from the previous session and group them into these pestled categories?
Yeah. So on this fishbone diagram, I want you to try to generate new thinking in one category. So Kasia, if you would take political or policy and focus in that area. If you happen to have thoughts that you shared up above already that fit that, feel free to drag them down. If you didn't generate any in the political area, this is forcing you to kind of think from that perspective.
Okay. So in principle, we generate new based on the older ones. Okay.
Yep. So let's make sure somebody takes each of these categories. At least one person takes each of the categories. And in about 3 minutes,
so maybe you tell us who takes what, because otherwise we may. I started political, but I see somebody else started political too.
Yeah. So I think we've got about 13 people in here. So so Kasia and Vicky, if you can take political, if you don't mind, and then Dawn and Denise, if you want to take environmental, Paul and Tamara, if you want to take technological, Rachel and Jennifer, if you want to take education, Sarah and Judy, how about cultural values? And I'll join you on cultural values. And then Marlena and Michelle, if you want to start working on economic factors, that would be great. And then I'll set a timer, and in 3 minutes, where's my timer? Maybe I don't have ability to set a timer either. So about 3 minutes, we'll move over and shift to a different category.
Whoever I was partnered with, I'm kind of lost in this whole thing for now.
Okay.
Just
Sure.
take me out of the mix.
Okay. Judy, are happy to work with you. I'm in the cultural values one as well. And or you can watch and
Pretty much
learn.
watching, so I learned something. I finally figured out to see the page.
Good.
Excuse me, Brent. I unfortunately just got pulled into another meeting, so I look forward to. Do you send recaps to anyone on what was discussed?
Yeah, Denise will send, I shouldn't promise for Denise, but last time she sent a recording, and this board will always be out here. You can come back to it and see how it's changed since you were last here.
All right. Thanks so much.
All right.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Brent, I don't know if you could hear it, but the 3-minute went off.
Oh, I did. Okay. Thank you, Denise. Appreciate you setting up. Okay. So I'd like to ask everybody, I'm not going to do any assigning. Everybody just freely jump over to another topic. You have one assignment in your new topic. That is review the sticky notes that have been written, and at least one thought needs to be an extension or something prompted by what has been previously written.
I'm not sure if I understand.
Okay. So, Cassia,
Sorry. It may be that it's my fourth meeting today. I don't understand the assignment. Sorry.
All good. All good. So what I'd like to, if you worked on political and policy before, jump over to another topic. Let's say it is economic. And I'd like you to read the postings that are there quickly and let one of those postings be a prompter for you to have an idea, for kind of force yourself to have an extension off of that.
To have an extension of that. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Wow.
How much time, Brent?
Let's do another 3 minutes if we can, Denise.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can't go down to the Thrifty Kitty this afternoon or Friday.
Your 3 minutes are up.
All right. All test takers, put your pencils down. Okay. How did that feel? Or, I mean, give me some feedback. How did this go?
I like it.
Doing it this way.
It was fun. I didn't think I would be able to do the second part, but I did come up with some ideas. So
awesome. How did it feel? If anybody else has some thoughts on forcing yourself out of your comfort zone, an area maybe where or perspective you hadn't looked at before. Was it easy?
I don't think I actually moved myself outside of my comfort zone, and this is because some of the topics that were mentioned by others under other categories also resonate with me and with what I think. So I was actually not out of my comfort zone, but it was very helpful in getting a little deeper into what some of these topics may mean, because somebody's perspective may have not been my perspective, or I thought maybe it was not completely the same as my perspective. So I could add my spin to what was already said.
I agree. Yeah.
I could agree with that too. I think if I'd done this from longer and then jumped into a couple more categories, I might have gotten outside my comfort zone, but I was kind of still able to stay within it.
Okay, great. Everybody, when I was doing my preparation, I wanted everybody to feel that experience of building on other people's ideas. And if you were doing this for a problem that you were working on, a core, you would go through this a couple more times to really get down deep. Looks like we have just a few minutes yet. So we are going to get to the clustering and recombining these ideas. We'll do that next time. We'll pick up there. But I do want to talk about, why we're going to do that, because I thought it might feel a little bit strange. Here we put so much effort into thinking broadly and coming up with many ideas. Why do we go immediately to convergence again and trying to bring these down? And the idea was we wanted to really go out and, especially if you're doing ideation, try and find those most creative, most unique ideas, because those are probably the perspectives that haven't been tried before. Many of the ones that we were first able to generate, other people have thought of it and trials have been run on that. And I kind of have a paradigm or a rule of thumb that yesterday's problems, and I believed other people's talk. I shouldn't take this as my own thought. You've heard this. Yesterday's problems won't be solved with the same thinking that got us into that problem. And so as we look to solve those problems, we have to use different thinking. And this is a way, by stretching ourselves like a balloon that's been blown out multiple times, stretching ourselves is a way to get to that new creative thinking to solve problems differently. Okay, so coming to convergence, let's be honest, I'm going to zoom back and say, Our minds were not built for wrestling with that many ideas at once. So great job of generating these ideas, but now we're going to converge these into something that our minds can grasp again, and we're going to use that to help us filter out those common ideas, especially if we're ideating. We're going to filter out the common ideas, look for the ones that are stretched, and put those into smaller buckets so that we can do something useful with those ideas in our next meeting. Okay? Does that all make sense? Okay. I didn't really allow time for questions, but I do want to say I'll open this up for questions of anything in the last few minutes we have. Questions on anything we've done, thoughts about how we could do it better, or different techniques maybe you've used in the past? Okay. If you feel exhausted, maybe this is your 5th meeting of the day, like Asya said, I want to applaud you because you've all been really good sports. You've done great at doing something that is very challenging to come up with ideas. If you are exhausted and you need to take a deep breath, I want you to do that. And rest assured, we are going to pull this together in something more concrete, less abstract in the next session. With that, I do want to say have a fabulous afternoon and really feel good about the work that you've done today. Even if it feels to you like I just shared a bunch of ideas, you have achieved a lot today. Okay?
Thank you so much, Brent.
I appreciate that.
And many thanks to each of you who've joined us.
It was fun. Thank you very much for organizing this.
Yeah, you're welcome. I hope we see you next time, October 9th.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good, everybody. Thanks for showing up.
All right. Thank you all.
Good to see you, Rachel, being on camera.